What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Greetings. This will be the first live of 2024 that I am going to do. Um, I'm assuming everybody last night had a powerful evening and didn't do too much dumb shit. But let's get into the topic today. I named this "The Real World Doesn't Care What You Think," and the continuous kind of theme revolving around the lives that I do is I really want to bring a reality to people of the world. We have so much happening with social media, so much information being put out there that the the real essence of a lot of life is being missed, right? Like we have a new age of bringing up old school mysticism and spirituality, and people have completely conflated that incorrectly and practice the wrong stuff and take the wrong things from it. They disrespect tradition. I mean, it's just kind of crazy what's going on. But everyone walks around, a lot of people walk around acting as if they know things, or because they learned something, they think that they don't have to live in this reality anymore and they can just do whatever they want. And eventually that real reality at some point will hit people in the face and they're going to have to figure it out. As an example, I understand the argument and the sentiment around money not being the end all be all. I get it. It's not, right? However, we were born into this world, and for you to have a roof over your head, like I have here, right? Live comfortably, have access to particular things, unless you're going to be that subsect of society that moves into the forest in the middle of nowhere, off the grid, and you completely detach from society, which you can do, but that's always going to be a small sliver of a percentage of people, right? If you don't do that, you're going to have to accept the responsibility and the reality that money will be involved in your existence, right? So I bring that up because these same people will fail miserably with money, never conquer it, never even be proficient with it, and just talk shit about it and this and that. It's like, dude, you don't have a pot to piss in. What are you talking about, right? You can't even conquer something mundane like money and the flow of money and the understanding of it and just making enough to survive and be okay. You can't even handle that basic thing, but you're some enlightened guru. Get out of here, right? So I understand the argument, but the real world people don't give a shit about that. You can talk all that game, but if you can't even put together enough scratch to have a roof over your head and have food and live the way that you want to live, then really are you as good or as enlightened as you say you are? Probably not, right? So this bleeds into every area of life. We brought this up a little bit yesterday too. Like the world doesn't care about your feelings. It doesn't care about your story. It doesn't care that your circumstances are tougher, or you had to do this or that, or you were born into the wrong family. Like all these excuses and things that we come up with, nobody cares. The world doesn't care. At the end of the day, if you show up for the job, do you have the credentials? If you want to sell to the client, are you the best salesperson and do you have the best product, right? When it comes time for the game, did you prepare and did you practice? And do you have the talent and the team and the strategy to beat the other team? That's all they care about, is the result and what's going on. Not all these intricate stories and well, this is why I'm different. Like nobody cares, right? At the end of the day, nobody cares. Now, again, that's difficult for a lot of people to accept because it's almost like the nature versus nurture argument and comparison. We're brought up with our family and our friends in our own little cocoon, and then when you get thrown out into the lion's den, the real world after school, or you want to be an entrepreneur or something like that, that's the reality. And for a lot of kids, that first time is sports. That's why I always recommend kids get involved in sports or something competitive, because now they're being taught by another adult. It's going to be uncomfortable. There's competition. They're probably going to get yelled at, right? And being exposed to that will help them, because that's the real world. That's a taste of what the real world would be for them later on. And if they never get that taste until they're an adult, right, you're kind of robbing them of the reality of the situation. It's almost like if you live in harsh conditions and then you keep yourself or your family or your kids or whatever it is, you never expose them to the harsh elements. You never put them in the cold or something like that. Well, the day that they have to go out there and work or face the elements, they're going to be underprepared and underdeveloped because they've never faced it before, right? So right now, people will come in with the argument about this is right and this is wrong and blah, blah, blah. Again, nature in the world is. So we can debate and argue about it on an intellectual level. It's still not going to change the reality, right? And this is why I tell people those arguments are futile, right? And they're a waste of your time. Instead of trying to change the game and complain about it, which is what people do nowadays, learn the game and master it and do well. There you go. That's all you got to do. Then, when you amass all the success and power and wealth to a ridiculous level, then you be in the position potentially later on to change the game. So instead of complaining, say, you know what? I'm going to conquer this game so well that I can come back and change the game. That would be cool. That would be a cool story. We could make a movie out of that. And that would be incredible. And a lot of people would admire you. You would have a tremendous amount of respect, a tremendous sense of accomplishment, real accomplishment. And that would be cool, right? You see? But then the person's tapping into their own, we can say, ingenuity and their own desire and their own kind of, we can say, zest to go after something, right? Because that's when you activate those things that have been dormant within the human being, is when you really go after something, when you dedicate and you say, I'm deciding to do blank, right? Then you really activate the human being to its more full potential, right? Now, that can be said to be my opinion, but take a look around and I think you'll be able to verify that for the most part, right? So when I have a conversation with individuals, or I take a look at people and I say, look, let's have a conversation about where you're at, in your business, your personal life, whatever it is. This topic comes up, right? Because the stories and all these excuses come up for a lot of people about why they can't do something or why they're not where they're at. But in reality, I tell them, that's the story, dude. Nobody cares. When I have to pay my mortgage or do this or do that, I can't give them a story. Hey guys, hey lender, can't pay the mortgage this month. Let me tell you the story. They say, we don't care. If it's not paid in 3 days, you're late, and we're going to send you the pay rent or quit notice, right? And that process begins. So to certain people or entities, we don't play that game. But with other human beings, we attempt to manipulate and play that game, which is why people fail miserably. Okay? I went to pass my exam in real estate. I either pass with a passing score or I don't. There's no story, right? I go to get the deal with the client. They either sign with me or they don't. There's no story. They're not going to tell me to leave and not sign with me, and then I give them some story about why they should, and then they will. It's not going to happen, right? And all these examples are the real world giving me feedback. It doesn't care what I think. It doesn't care what my story is, right? And I think it's kind of sad that this message has to even be said, but it's the world that we're in. It really is. And we think it's okay. I mean, look at children nowadays. We used to honor the spirit of competition and getting first and second and third place, and now kids get participation trophies. It's crazy. I spoke about this a long time ago, right? So all that does is diminish first, second, and third honors and try to make everybody feel good. But in the process, so much is broken, right? There's no spirit of competition. There's no sense of accomplishment of the winners. There's no reason for them to push anymore, right? All that's doing is softening people up, because the reality is there's the winner and the loser in any competition, right? I go after a client and someone else does. One of us is going to win and one of us is going to lose. We have to learn and mature and be able to deal with both winning and losing. That's a part of your growth and development as a human being and an experience of what reality is in the real world. So in the business world and sales world, we choose to participate in it, right? So I am going to win and lose. I don't care how good you are. You're going to take your L's. You're going to take losses. That's the reality, right? But if we're only shielding ourselves and exposing ourselves to one side of the coin, is that really helping us? No, it's destroying us. It's destroying us, right? But it feels good to get the participation trophy. It feels good to not have to get rejected, right? But in reality, it does nothing for people. It does nothing. So what I recommend people do, right, as we explore this subject further is, and this is tough for individuals to do on their own because they're not used to this, like the school of hard knocks, like the school of reality, we can call it, right? Make individuals, like I'll give you an example with me, right? I had the desire about 10 years ago to really take my communication to the next level, right? My sales skills, my communication, I wanted to be world class, right? Like I want to be the best. I want to be the best. So immediately I was confronted with many things that I had to do and that I desired to do that were not comfortable, not at all, right? Doing improv, right? Going in front of a comedy club just to test myself, right? And get out of my comfort zone. Doing Toastmasters, public speaking, right? Volunteering at places to speak, offering to give lunch to a company so I can talk to their salespeople about some stuff that's going to help them, just to build my skills and get my name out there, right? All that stuff, very uncomfortable for me back then, right? Now it's a fucking breeze. But back then, very, very uncomfortable. Now I could come up with stories and excuses about why I wouldn't do it, but I wouldn't be where I'm at today and nobody would care. They wouldn't care if I told the story right now about how I could have been something 10 years ago, blah, 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 right? You wouldn't be watching me. I wouldn't have my platforms. I wouldn't have the success that I have. So going back to that, I had a choice. I'm either going to do it or not. I'm either going to take the step and get out of my comfort zone and do what I need to do to accomplish the goal, or I'm not. That's it. There's no gray area. You're going to do it or you're not, right? What's been sold nowadays to people is the gray area. No, you don't have to do that anymore. You can do this. No, you can't replace that thing. Now, I don't want to go too off on a tangent on that, but we have to confront the reality of, in that example, hey, I need to take XYZ action, get in front of people, go to in front of this crowd, do this, do that to accomplish this goal and get better and get to the next level. There's no way around it. There's no other way. I can't think around it. I can't imagine around it. Like, I have to do it. And if I didn't, again, nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody would want to hear my sad sob story. Like, as an example, don't you guys hate hearing? Doesn't it upset you a little bit when you hear people talk about how they were the man, 10, 20, 30 years ago? And, oh, if this happened, I'd be a superstar now. Like, basically the people who were stuck 10, 20, 30 years ago. And then they hang their hat on that. It's like, dude, that was 20, 30 years ago. What are you doing now? You're still making excuses a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades later? Come on, right? Give me a break. So I told myself I didn't want to be that. So when my basketball career ended because of injury, yeah, I felt sorry for myself for a little bit, but something had to change. The real world wouldn't have cared that I got injured and my dream was taken away from me by my own account, right? That's what I would say. Nobody would care. Oh, yeah, sure. Your dream was taken away from you. Here's $1 million. No, nobody would care. I had to take my life into my own hands and change it and take steps to do what I'm doing now. And I completely transform myself. Anybody has access to doing that if they decide and if they see it through, because that's how you get results. Thought, idea, planning, and then action, and you see it through until you achieve it. That's the formula, right? We know this. There's no circumventing that. You have to do it. And in that process, until you reach the destination, nobody cares. That's the interesting part about this. Once you get there, all the recognition in the world. If you quit even a step before, from the beginning to a step before, nobody cares. Right? But see, to me, that dynamic is correct. Because the person who reaches the destination should be acknowledged and deserves it. The person who doesn't, they don't. Because they didn't see it through. They said they wanted to do something and stopped before they finished it. That doesn't receive recognition, right? Let's give a real world example. You hire somebody to build a house for you. They build it 80% and then they want full payment and they say they're done. 80% doesn't count, bro. It's not a house. It's 80%. Somebody's going to cook for you. They cook half the meal and then they demand payment and they leave. It's half the meal, bro. Give me the full meal. That's what I paid for. That's what I wanted. That's what we agreed upon, right? You made that agreement with yourself. And the very first example that I gave, you said you wanted to accomplish something and you didn't make it to the end. Again, nobody cares. Whether it was the house, the cooking, nobody cares. I don't care. Well, I have to do this. It doesn't matter. I paid you or wanted this service. I expect that service, right? And we can go on, guys, on this hamster wheel around this subject. The real world doesn't give a shit. So even if you're having a bad day, nobody cares, right? Nobody cares. Nobody cares that our parents died, right? Or something bad. Like, nobody cares. And I'm giving all these different examples. So, because everybody listening to this is like, well, there's this one time or there's this one thing I can use as an excuse. It's like, why would you even think that? Understand this concept, because once you add this concept everywhere, you realize how many stories you're telling yourself and excuses that you think are going to garner you some sympathy or help when they don't. You know, the moment you drop the I'm special attitude and realize that you're not special, I'm not, nobody is, life gets better, dude. Because now you don't expect a miracle to happen. It's like when people get so upset, oh man, the president, this and that. It's like, bro, even if the president was Trump or Biden or, mixed match or somebody else, the same people complaining about the world would still be complaining and wouldn't be in a better condition. That's just pushing responsibility outside of yourself. The real world doesn't care, and they're not going to come and save you. Right? We have to, again, identify what we want and go after it, work at it, and then build our lives around that. That's our existence. Right? In this society, in this world, in 2023, 2024. That's what we do. But people have gotten so far away from it. They're so detached. They're so distracted. To get a particular result. Oh man, like let me give you an example of this philosophy of what I just named this, right? Or the real world doesn't care what you think. I remember when I started having success in real estate, a lot of people around me started hitting me up. Oh man, it looks like you're doing really well. Like, damn, maybe I should get into real estate, right? Like those types of messages and comments from people. And I was getting them pretty frequently because this is years ago before I was, censored and demonetized, and social media back then was very much so chronologically. So in the order that people posted, you would see it way back then, right? So I'm getting messages and I'm like, man, like at the time, I'm of course talking to people like, hey, yeah, for sure, blah, blah, blah. Now the thing changed when they started asking me specifically what I was doing and I was sharing with them. Immediately they went from enthusiastic to like, whoa, right? Like, wait, you're doing all that? So they associated my success not with that work that I was putting in. It was with something else. So they were enamored by the result and they didn't see the journey and the daily activities that I was doing to get there. Now, of course, once I told people what I was doing, everybody's like, fuck that, I'm not doing it. No, I would never do that. Right? But that's the real world. The real world in that example is, this is the body of work. This is what I did to achieve this result. Right? That's it. And of course, when I told them, I knew everybody would run for the hills. I knew it. Because we're creatures of comfort, right? We don't want to do it. And they thought maybe, hey, this guy made a quick buck, whatever their philosophy was, right? But that's the real world, was what I did. That's how you get the result. And look at people, when this example that I just gave you, look at the world. I've put out that body of work that I just described to the planet on YouTube for years. I have on my original channel over 20 million views. So a lot of people have seen it. And people will still fight and claw to do it another way. And it blows my mind. Because they don't want to accept the reality of what it takes to build a business. In this example, right? It's nuts, dude. It's crazy. Crazy. It really is. It really is. Because deep down inside, the vast majority of these individuals know that what I'm saying is true. And they know it's reality. They just don't want to accept it. They don't want to say it. They want to go over to La La Land where there's some other people participating in La La Land, and then, right? And this is in every category, right? Business, wealth, relationships, communication, right? People's relationships with themselves, their lack of self-esteem and confidence, and all the stuff that we talk about all the time, right? Like, as an example, people find it interesting that I can deal with so much negativity, well, positivity and negativity, right? Like, not get lost in the we can say the fame or the praise that you get from people, but also not get derailed by all the criticism and hate. Well, see, that's been a tremendous journey of mine to develop that, right? And much of that work is internal. But when I tell people what it would take to achieve that, then you find out quickly how much of a priority that is to them or not. And for most people, it's a novel idea, but in practice, they don't want to do it. In theory, sure, but in practice, I don't want to do that work. Oh man, I really want to learn this. Okay, 2 weeks from now, we're doing this event on that. Oh, well, never mind. Right? But again, in the real world, that's what you do. Hey, I want that good or service. I need to exchange my money for it. There you go. Hey, I want to go to the store. I got to get in my car and drive, but I first had to buy the car and have a place to park it, which is my house. Like, that's the real world that we live in, y'all. So we can talk all this big game and these theories and all these ideas, but if you don't have the money to have those things, what are you going to do? We can fight, tooth and nail and oh, we're the resistance and we're this and that, but hey, that's just the world that we live in, man. I'm not saying money is the most important thing. I'm not saying you have to be a gazillionaire, but you have to be able to handle the basic things of mundane realities, which is what they call it. Our everyday life as human beings. Now, you can achieve a level in it like I have where now I have to stop sometimes because I'm not the average person in my income and the way that I live, right? I've created this for myself. But that's an example of me going into that same game that everybody complains about and conquering it. And anybody can do the same. Now, in my position that I'm in now, I can help and potentially with other people in the future change the game. I need to keep ascending and do more. But if I really wanted to change the game deep down, I'm getting closer and closer to one day getting to the position where that's a possible reality. But if you're at the bottom, what are you going to change? You can't give to anybody. You can't help anybody. Right? And I always thought I wanted to be in that position to help, to have the freedom, right? But I really wanted it. Not, oh, it's a cool idea. No, I would obsess about it and plan around it. And every day that I worked, I had that idea in mind, top of mind awareness. Boom, 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 boom. And every day you work at it because that's how you get results in the real world. You obsess about it. You eliminate distraction. You do what others are unwilling to do. You commit yourself at a level that other people they can't fathom it, right? You endure just an insurmountable amount of rejection, right? If you build your business or you're in sales to get really good, right? You show up early, you leave late, you put in extra work, right? Everyone else is working 40 hours, you're working 60, 70, 80, right? You do what other people are not willing to do or what they complain about or just flat out what they don't want to do. They won't do it. But see, the real world rewards you for that effort. I am a prime example of it and so many others that you've seen. But then the decision has to be made by the individual. Am I willing to do it or not? Because at the end of the day, the real world gives you the feedback, the results. You got it or you don't. There's no almost. When me and other realtors would go for a client, one of us got them. The other people don't get credit for saying, oh, I was second, almost. No, you either got the deal or you didn't. You can pay your rent or you can't, right? You're strong enough to do the lift or you're not, right? You're either healthy or you're not. There's no in between, right? You're either nutritionally good or you're deficient, right? Like we can go back and forth all day, guys. And this idea that I'm discussing it's simplicity at its finest, y'all. Life is simple. If you're suffering, you're doing something wrong. If you can't even have a basic, income for yourself and live at least comfortably to where you're working and, you don't have debt collectors coming after you, you can at least pay for a roof over your head, have a means of transportation. If you can't do that, it's not that hard, y'all. And then if you desire more, you go for it, right? And you do more to get more. I get it. But regardless of where you fall in that, and in that process, there should be some elation, right? Some happiness, some fulfillment, some enthusiasm. You only have one life, right? But again, the world doesn't care how hard it is or if you're struggling it or if you don't like it or not. Nobody cares. You see? And this subject is tough for a lot of people because of their fucking ego and their pride. Well, I'm special. No, my voice matters. Yeah, your voice matters to you and the people who are in your close proximity, sure, your business partners, but to everybody else, we don't care. Just like my voice only matters to my audience, my students, the people in my life, right? Not special. So play with this subject a little bit in your life and ask yourself, where am I resisting? Where am I refusing to accept the reality that I'm in? Am I being delusional? Do I have people around me who are feeding the delusion? And you will remove so much weight off of your back and from your shoulders that you will feel so much better. And you may not like the reality, that's fine. But the beautiful part about this existence in our life is you can work on it and you can change it. We're incredibly powerful as human beings. We really are. We really are. I look at my life over the last 10 years, I'm like, holy shit. Like, if I didn't believe magic exists, it does. With the power of the mind, the thought process, the imagination, the communication. I mean, it's unbelievable what we can do and what we're capable of, the capacity of the human being. So for us to be reduced to where we're at now, or to have all these opportunities that are just astoundingly abundant around us, and to be reduced to, I don't know what to do, and this, or just apathy, right? It's crazy, isn't it? Or am I crazy, right? Because that would be the next question. I don't think I'm the only one that thinks this. And for me, over the last 10 years, one of the biggest changes has been the removal of that resistance. I just don't resist life. I don't. I accept nature for what it is, right? The circumstance that I'm in, like, I accept these things and then I work to change them if I don't like them. There's no resistance in me anymore. That's why I live at peace so much and I'm happy all the time, right? It's not because I'm on drugs. It's because I'm not fighting the very mechanisms of life like many people are. I don't like this and that and this and that. It's like, dude, you're not going to change it, especially complaining about it. You're not going to change it. You want to change it? Cool. Make that your life's journey then and acquire the power and resources to change it. There you go. Then that becomes your journey, right? Cool. All right, guys, I don't want to ramble on too long. I left all my stuff in the description if you need any help. Have a good day. First live stream of 2024. And it's going to be a fantastic year. All right. See you guys.